Some of us are outwardly successful, but inwardly feel unhappy and living a life lacking in purpose and meaning. The Necktie and the Jaguar by Carl Greer can help you discover what's important to you and how to go for it. For more information or to purchase the book, visit carlgreer.com. That's CarlGreer.com. Welcome to Shooting the Shift with Marilyn and Elizabeth. These light warriors, both native New Yorkers, walk their walk, talk their talk, and keep the real in the deal. This dynamic duo joined forces to assist you through your transformational journey one step at a time, empowering you with spiritual tools you can use in your daily life. Each show begins as a conversation creating an opening for spiritual connection. There are never any scripts, and Spirit is always illuminating the way. And that's when the shift hits the fan. The magical messages of the ancestors, spirit guides, and Gaia are respected, honored, and always given sacred space to communicate. Join Marilyn and Elizabeth as they shake shift up and do what they do best, speak from their hearts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Shooting the Shift with Elizabeth and Marilyn.
Yeah, welcome, everyone. I'm excited about this topic today.
Good morning, Marilyn.
Good morning.
Well, I'll tell you, I got my big, ginormous mug of tea, and fall has finally arrived in Colorado. We have been really spoiled, and it's been beautiful, and we've had a really colorful tree foliage and everything, and it's been so warm and sunny. And yesterday, it was snow and leaves, and the wind came in, and you could feel the fall, you know? Just beautiful. I feel really, really blessed to live in the state of Colorado. It's a beautiful place. As you know, I'm from New York as well. And I am excited because fall happens to be one of my favorite seasons of the whole year. So I'm glad that it's finally arrived, and I know winter's right around the corner. But today we are talking about trauma and drama. And I'm just going to read what we post in our, every week we're asked to post a topic. So I'm going to post what we posted in case you haven't seen it out there in Radio Land. And trauma in the drama. We react and respond from the unconscious, unhealed experiences that rise up to the surface to be felt, seen, and heard. Our reactions surge from the wounded, unspoken parts of the energy that we tucked away to release the pain of the experience. Think of this energy as an exposed live wire within that, if left unchecked, creates the explosive reactions in the moment. So today we wanted to share a little bit about different kinds of traumas. And I was going to share something about my own personal trauma because everyone's trauma is different and there's all different triggers. We've covered triggers. But we're going to provide hopefully some tools to diffuse and transform the trauma in our lives. Right?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
So where would you like to start today, Miss Marilyn? My soul sister.
Well, I think that we can start to talk about, how trauma is alive and well and running the show within us all, right? And when there's certain, how would I say, sometimes it's just triggers. Sometimes it's, certain things that are happening outside of us. A phrase, someone's action towards us or towards another. Sometimes it brings up some of those, how would you say, untapped into emotions that become activated, actually. I really believe that what happens is that when we have been traumatized, we hold back a lot of that trauma within the cellular memory in our bodies. And those cellular memories continue throughout our life to collect energy. Right. And so it gets built up within the body. And that's how we come up with all kinds of experiences of the, how would you say, like when you're having an experience with someone who just probably said something that maybe to another person wouldn't upset them, but all of a sudden you are explosive or you are reactive. And that's really because sometimes you don't even know what that is, right? What made you say that? But it was this feeling, right, that just rose up. It's a frequency that you're actually writing. And then you start vibrating in that, and all of a sudden there it goes. The words come out, the actions come out. So I'm sorry, you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I was going to say, boy, do I have a whammy of a story for you about things growing inside your physical body, because that's literally what happened to me. And, you already know part of my journey, Marilyn. But I think it's really important to share with people out there. Everybody's trauma is different. This is a really big trauma story. But it's important to share because this is more, I would say, somebody that's living with a hidden secret trauma that really couldn't be seen to them until it was ready to be presented, right? So I'm just going to share, a very personal story about myself, which I'm happy to share. It's not, I've been very public about my journey. It's nothing. I'm well healed. It's all over. So I'm doing amazingly well. And I always say my biggest burden became my biggest gift. So roughly about 5 years ago, I had a really large tumor that turned out to be my ovary. And, I knew that I'm going to make this as brief as I can because this subject is really about trauma, but it's important to say a little bit about how this unraveled. And, I knew something was wrong with my body. I wasn't sure what was wrong with my body. I knew I was entering the age of menopause and there were issues going on, but I had no way, shape, or form had any idea the extreme of what was going on until it was, I was having a surgery and having a very large tumor removed from my body. But I know it's like a pearl, like each layer of trauma kind of covered and grew that tumor bigger inside of me. And that's why I thought, Marilyn has no idea what she's saying that's so right about what my experience was. Because it was like a pearl, that a layer by layer by layer until it couldn't be ignored. And eventually what happened, to make a very long story short, was when I had the emergency surgery and I went through 3 years of a dark night of journey with the soul, I literally had to have another surgery to be put back together again. And as I was healing, I was getting all of these signs and symbols, which we're going to do a show on that as well, signs from spirit. But I was getting all of these awakenings about spiritual, like my guardian angel. I was introduced to that. But really what most importantly came out about waking me up with this journey was I reacquainted myself with the 5-year-old that was magical and had gifts and could see things and had the ability to talk to people on the other side and to astral travel. And all of that came from my healing from this giant tumor and the awakening. I mean, they literally cracked me open not once, but twice because I'm a tough nut. But when I reacquainted with that 5-year-old girl, I realized because of the trauma that I had endured, which is really not important to go into, but I became empowered and I became open and I became awake and I was able to deal with that trauma because she had kept all my gifts safe for me. And that was the beginning of my real awakening into being a light warrior and doing the work that we're doing and showing up every day to talk about trauma. So, yes, that's a very particular kind of trauma that's more in depth, but we all have traumas from our childhood, be it somebody knocked on the door and you opened the door and you were in your PJs with your footies and there was a giant German Shepherd that knocked you down, and maybe you're afraid of German Shepherds the rest of your life because you have that trauma in your body. Or something really in depth that wakes you up, or a relationship. So I want to share a little bit about that personal story because if it hadn't happened, I would have never gotten to where I am now. And I'm so grateful for where I am now because it was like unwrapping a present. But there was some real dark stuff I had to go through to get there. And I'm not trying to fluff over it. I just don't want to make it about my journey. I want to make it about trauma for everyone. Mm-hmm. But there's a point in your life, I will say, at least for me in my personal walk, that if you don't address it, it's like a pebble and then a rock and then a boulder and then a giant Indiana Jones planet rolling out after you, chasing you. And it's ruling your life in one way, form, or another because you're not empowering yourself to heal that trauma and move forward. And I think that's essentially true with all trauma.
Yeah, I agree with that, right? Because trauma, a lot of times people are not aware of their traumas, right? Or a lot of times people will say, well, yeah, that was such a long time ago. I dealt with that. That no longer is an issue for me. I have taken care of that. That's, water under the bridge, whatever it is that you want to call it. But in reality, the trauma, that energetic frequency is always running the show in the background. It's always dictating, our decision making through the filters in the background, right? Because there's always that information that's still running in the background for us, right? So, and when you think about it, if you've been traumatized, and I believe probably everyone has one way or another, right? So if you've been traumatized, you also understand that there's a different sensory filter that is used by the traumatized person, right? It's an unconscious pattern that's in place, and it's in full alert at all times. And that's why a lot of times we respond and react in the ways that we do. And sometimes we perceive things in advance simply because, you're going 100 billion trillion miles a minute or second to get to the place of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And it's an unconscious thing. It's just, this is an automatic frequency that really kind of runs the show. And I'm so interested in having people learn that we can take back that power, that we don't have to allow all of this to be taking place. But in order for us to be doing that, there's several things that we have to understand, right? Is understanding what it is that we're feeling, because the feeling place is important all the time. I really believe that, when we're feeling a certain way and we don't have it register, or we don't say, wow, all of a sudden I'm not feeling so good. All of a sudden something's happening that I'm not feeling right. And I was feeling pretty good, a few minutes ago. And if we can stop and say, oh, I know, I started thinking this thought that now put me in this feeling place, which is now triggering, an old past experience that is running, the show right now. And so that's how we take back our power, right? But the other thing is, I think, seeing therapists, seeing an energy body practitioner or a shamanic medicine practitioner, having a Reiki massage, a craniosacral massage, seeing a practitioner like that or an acupuncturist to help you, right? Because we could do this, but we really can. It's easier to do it with help, right? With assistance. Because sometimes when we tap into those places that are very, how would I say, that have really a high level of feeling around and emotion around the events that have taken place in our lives, right? We don't want to re-traumatize ourselves. So we need help so that we don't do that, right? We need the tools to be able to help ourselves. Yeah,
I think that's really important. And I think also going back to that pearl analogy of layer by layer, just how we have these defense mechanisms where I put another layer on it or another layer on it, another layer on it, or avoidance, or I dealt with it, but you really didn't really deal with the core of it. Right. And so just like that, I know, like for me, EMT and tapping was really helpful to move some trauma with me. And you can do that with a professional. You can do tapping by yourself too. You can find videos on that. But you really need to work with someone, especially with deep traumas and triggers like that.
Right.
But it is in layers, just like that pearl. You're whittling down one layer after another. It's not like overnight, instantaneous. Oh, exactly. The Red Sea parts.
Exactly.
Right?
And you get to, and the thing is that the more that you unravel, right, the more that you, just move out and how you're doing it is you're acknowledging it, you're revealing it, and then you're healing it. There's more. And then you start again with the acknowledging and the revealing and the healing it. And then there's more. And then it's not until you get to the core, that root, that place where it actually was birth, right? That you are able to say, okay, there may be a little residue here, but this is not controlling me anymore, right? I have deactivated this energy.
Yes. And I also think strongly, like the more that we can say, one step at a time, because it's not going to last forever. It's like pockets. You're going to feel the pain, but you're not going to live in it forever. So 5 minutes of getting pruny and deep in it, and then a reprieve, maybe a year of that, a year and a half of that, depending on the depth of the trauma, you're going to find freedom ultimately from that trigger forever for the rest of your life. So, wow, we've got our first break coming up, Marilyn. So I guess we're going to head off to a break, you guys, and we're going to be back discussing all different kinds of trauma. And we talked about triggers last week, so we're going to talk about triggers, but only in how triggers affect our trauma. And we're not going into a deep talk about triggers. But come back, stick with us, and we're going to give you some tips and tools.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Welcome back to Shooting the Shift with Marilyn and Elizabeth. And we are here today talking about trauma and trauma, because you know what? Where the drama comes in for me, Miss Marilyn, is all the other people's trauma that's in my face. That's the drama. I don't have a lot of drama with my own trauma. I don't know about you, but, you know, I think it was important to share that story because I think it's important that our listeners learn a little bit about us as well. And I don't know if you have anything you want to share about an experience you had with a client that you helped shift some trauma, or something about trauma in your own life. But for me, I just really like when, I can put somebody when I can see somebody and see what they've gone through. And the ultimate thing about my story the reason I wanted to share that very, very briefly is because sometimes I think in our darkest hours, we feel so trapped and we feel like we're not going to get through. And I know I kind of breezed over that a little bit, but there were some very, very dark times in that, and I felt hopeless. And have you ever heard the expression, it's always darkest before dawn? Yes. And if you can just embrace that when you feel that coming up and rising up, it all rises up in us differently. But when you can know, wow, I remember this chick on the radio and what she said she went through, and she seems like pretty well rounded today. I get inspired by other people overcoming things because it shows me proof that it happens, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I look at my life and I say, wow, I've come a long way and I've dealt with a lot of trauma and I have done a lot of digging, deep digging to get to the root of many of my traumas, right? Where they were coming from, what my reactions were, why was I reacting that way when maybe the situation wasn't that critical in that moment, yet it was because there was a history, right? There was an experience, an energetic frequency that was alive and well and just reactivated, right? And I think that my healing work comes from the fact that I have done so much of my internal work. And I continue to do so because, like I always say, I am a work in progress, as we all are. And the other thing is when I have my clients and I'm working with them and they have that aha moment when I'm telling them what their body is telling me, the story that their body is telling me. And a lot of times they'll say, how do you know that? That's true. But how do you know that? Because I don't know them. But what happens is that the body speaks. The body really, when you allow the body permission, right, to speak, and you allow yourself to truly tune in and to pay close attention, your body really is sending you signals and messages daily. The question is, are you listening? Are we listening? And why aren't we listening, right? Because sometimes we put ourselves in a place where, maybe you think you aren't as important and therefore you don't really need to be listening to what your body is saying. But I say, no, you need to put yourself first and to listen because you cannot work from a vessel that is not, full and hearty, right? We need to be able to take care of this beautiful body that we have been given and to work with it. And so when the body says, slow down, take a rest, and you don't listen and you continue to not listen, the body will eventually say, okay, you don't want to listen. Let me, shut you down for a minute, or let me knock you down since you're not listening, right? So now you're sick, and it
get your
a week
attention.
or 2 weeks, but this is the way the body gets your attention. And there's always a story behind a lot of things that are going on. When people come to me, they end up uncovering a story that sometimes what happens is they never saw it in that way because they locked it down and they just weren't ready to deal with it back then. But when the body says, I'm ready, I can do this, here we go, you're ready, because it's up in the surface, right?
Yeah. Another important point about what you're saying too is, some of us are so entrenched in our trauma that we don't even see it. It's like if you look at a toxic pattern, our families all have their toxic dynamic. Whatever it is, you know what your family is, whatever it is. And sometimes you have to actually unentrench yourself or go outside literally of the environment that you are in, like college, high school, whatever, a new relationship, a marriage, to see, wow, no, this is not how the world goes round. This is how the crazy world goes round in my little real estate, right? So that's a big eye opener for people because yes, the feelings, and yes, sometimes they really do, like knock, 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 bang, bang, bang. That's what happened with me because I was resistant. But it's really important that you be your own detective and really ask yourself some questions like, okay, well, this happened with Charlie and Roy and Danny. So maybe I have trauma with men and I might be picking the same kind of guy. Exactly. Why is that? Right? So there is a lot of self-investigation, and that's why you need someone amazing like Marilyn to help you work through that stuff, right? To get to the core of why did you pick Danny, Roy, and whoever the third guy's name was? I don't remember.
Right. Or why are you continuously, choosing, that type of person or putting yourself in that type of environment, right? Yes. Or making those decisions that you're making that are not the healthiest decisions for you. Why? Because when we start to ask those questions, then we really are saying, I matter, I'm worthy, I'm important. And I want to know. I want to know, right? So that I can heal, so that I can move in my light, so that I can be present, so that I can do what I came here to do, right? And it feels good when we're in that energy.
Yeah, and I would like to say, and I do think I say this every show, it's not like there's not a destination. It's like, I thought, wow, I've had my pandemic 5 years ago. I survived all of that and I wasn't supposed to walk away from it, and hallelujah. And now I'm dealing with past life traumas. So, don't think you get a free pass with, I conquered that trauma. It definitely makes things so much better. It definitely empowers you. But again, it's important to remember there are layers and you have to be gentle with yourself. Yes. Things are revealed as when you are ready to
when
see
you're ready.
them.
Exactly.
Whether you're jackhammered open or it's a sign in front of you, right? They will present themselves over and over. And when you recognize it, that's when you have that ping of power coming in.
Right. And as we were talking earlier, when we were not on the radio, and we were talking about how, we all, our trauma, the old, let's say hidden sometimes, or very activated trauma rose to its height, especially during the COVID, because it's almost like our greatest fears were coming up into place, and it brought up so much different traumas in our lives, and were we ready to deal with it or not? And some people were ready to deal with it and jumped in and just went head first into it, but then others were like trying to ignore it with all kinds of different how would I say, managing it. Yes, managing it in a way where it wasn't the healthiest, but it was the only way in that moment. And so I'm not here to judge, because I really believe that we all have to do it our way. I'm not here to say it's only one way, but I'm here to say that it's okay for us to not feel okay. It really is. That really is so important for us to recognize that, there will be those moments when we just don't feel okay, and that there really is nothing to it. We don't always have to be the happiest, go-lucky person feeling like, everything is good. It's wonderful. It's this, it's that, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we don't feel so good.
I love
and it's
that.
important, right?
You're making me think of that song by Miranda, Go and Hide Your Crazy, Your Crazy Showing. It's like, you also need people that'll hold the space for you when you're crazy and go, you are crazy right now, but you don't have to be. Let me show you, somebody to hold the space for you. That's why it's so important.
And to allow you that safe, sacred space to be crazy. And to be okay in the being crazy, right? Because it's important for us not to limit ourselves, because when we start limiting ourselves, this is what happens. We start to, it's almost like we have this big stick and we beat ourselves up every time we're doing something that somebody else calls off as, this is not the way to be. This is not the way to act. This is not the way to walk.
Yes.
This is not the way to talk.
Yes.
Oh, please. I don't want to hear those things. I want to walk and talk and be who I am. And if how I'm, behaving, right, is not, let's say it doesn't mesh with you, that's okay. That's okay. But I just don't want to cover up who I am simply to fit in. I don't need to fit in there. I need to fit in with people who understand who I am, right? Who see my heart, who understands who I am.
Yes. And I worked with an amazing woman named Donna Morrish in Colorado, and she really helped me because when I met that little girl, she was in a cocoon of barbed wire. She was scrawny and starving and had black eyes and was scared. And, I'm a round girl. I'm pretty robust. I've never been thin a day in my life, really. So that really shocked me to see that. It was such an extreme. And as I worked with her, it became a cotton cocoon, and she became pinker, and she became beefier, and she became healthy until the point where she had turquoise wings and was fully vibrant and running up to me to meet me and greet me. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, what a beautiful healing.
It was such, and it happened in stages.
Yes.
In the course of many months where she evolved with me because she was recognized, she was safe. She did have someone who would let her come out and be okay. And, some people wouldn't share their own journey, but it's important. Yes, because that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's giving that little girl, right, what she needed then, you can give it to her now. And if what she needed was, it's like you go like this, so you want some ice cream? Let's go get some. So you want, you just treat her, the way she needed to be treated. You love her the way she needed to be loved. You hold her the way she needed to be held. You speak the words that she needed to hear, right? To feel that she was okay. And there was nothing wrong with her. That she was fully enough. And that she was very welcomed in this life, right? And these are the things that we're missing. And it's so beautiful to be able to be spot on and to be able to, and yes, it's important what you said too, that you were working with someone who, it wasn't an overnight thing. You see, when we do this work, sometimes people say, no, but I want to fix it now. It doesn't work that way.
Or fix me. We don't fix people.
Yeah.
We hold the space for people to heal, but you can't fix anybody. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And people, we all have to be ready. I have to be ready, right? For the next change, for the next shift, for the next opening, for the next experience, right? For the next unraveling.
And to let things settle one layer at a time. It takes a little bit of time to go, okay, at this little level, I'm okay now. I'm ready. It's not immediate,
Yeah. And
that's a big one. No one fix anybody.
And I have to say this because it's important for you to understand that it's okay for you to have a pity party every now and then.
Oh, God,
But it's important to get yourself back up and to say, okay, now let's move on, right? But you get enough of your pity party.
Tantrum. You got it out. You're all pruny. Now dry off and move on.
And give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to, I know it may sound crazy out there, but I'm going to just say this. If I have situation where I feel like, oh my God, there's a scream that is wanting to come out of me, right? For whatever reason it is, I go out into the backyard all the way to the very back. And then I let out a scream because I have to tell you this. I was always that person that didn't like to scream like that because I always felt that my scream would probably crack the world open. And that's the craziest thought, but it was my thought, right? And it was a belief that I somehow held onto, and it controlled my my ability to scream if I needed to scream. And now I don't have any issue with that. If I need to allow that energy, because sometimes what it is energy that no longer needs to be in the body, and it just needs to come out. You're releasing it. But there's a force that has to come with it to allow it to move out. Sometimes I go out and I say, okay, so I'm going to walk. And I learned this from a beautiful teacher that I worked with, Eileen O'Hare is her name. And she is amazing. And, the teachings were also, you pick up a rock along the way, right? And as you're walking, because you have so much stuff going on, so maybe you're angry or upset, or you got issues or problems or whatever, blow them into the stone, blow them into the stone, keep on walking, keep on blowing it into the stone until you have nothing left to blow into the stone. Now, you don't carry the stone the rest of the way, you drop it. You drop it, you let it go, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to drop our stuff. We're supposed to drop the shit that doesn't supposed to stay stuck in us. But we're so busy carrying. Some people might not want to let go of the stone. Oh, no, it's such a pretty stone. I don't want to let it go. Let it go.
It's got all my stuff. I've got that's sticking to the story. But no, I got this and this happened and that happened. And it's effing over now. So let it go. Yeah. Remember Moses? He went up to the mountain all tan and happy and handsome and young and hot, and then he came down with those 10 commandments and he was completely transformed, right? It's the same thing, different scenario. Okay, so wow, we just fly by, don't we, Marilyn? We're just talking,
and
it's so important for people to hear that. Yes, go ahead.
And let's remember that the trauma is alive and well and is running the show, whether we know it or we don't. Sometimes we know it and sometimes we don't, but it's always running the show, right?
Like a ticker tape parade. Yeah. Bah, bah, bah. You got a whole ensemble going on in there.
Yeah, and it's dictating, most of our decision
every
making.
Step.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we're coming from a fear, not a reality. All right, darling. So guess what? Guess what time it is? It's time for another break. Our final break. We'll be back. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about, dropping that stone, letting that stuff go and moving on. So we'll be right back.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Coping 19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
With everything going on, there may be times you feel like you can't handle it all. Journaling, meditating, and talking with friends and family can help you feel more grounded and better able to cope. Your kids are also going through a lot of new experiences, and simply talking with them about their feelings can be quite powerful.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. So we're back and still talking about, of course, the topic, which is trauma and drama and how we handle it, right? And how we can help ourselves to be, how would I say, more proactive than reactive. That's really important. That's a really important thing to remember. We want to be proactive in our life. We do not want to be reactive. And if we are reactive, it's okay. We can say it's all right. Next time we'll do better. Or you can pull yourself away and say, excuse me, that's not what I meant to say or how I meant to say it. Let me start again. Let me begin again, right? Because we have to be kind and compassionate towards ourselves as well. Right? We don't want to beat ourselves up with a stick every time, right? At all, period. I don't even want to see the stick. Never mind that. Right?
That's right. That's right.
The stick doesn't even exist anymore, right?
Yeah, but also on that path with the rock and everything with that rock, as soon as you drop that rock, as soon as you go, even if you haven't found a counselor and you're not ready, you're ready, you need a counselor, you need a friend, you need an advocate, whatever it is. You make that choice and you're ready to drop the rock, but you don't know what to do. The hardest thing is the next spiritual breadcrumb, right? Because as soon as you say, I need help, and now you need to be wise about this. You need to find somebody that is an advocate, not part of your ticker tape parade that wants you to stay stuck in the trauma or in that trauma too. So you got to be wise who you choose. But honestly, every single time in my life where I have needed help or I was ready for help and I asked for help, I have been blessed with the help that I needed.
Yes.
It may not have been perfect. It may have been a breadcrumb to the next lily pad step in the future, but it got me to where I needed to go. And so
because
that's
you become
important.
more aware, right? Because you become more aware of what fits and what doesn't fit. And the more
it's
of that
okay
work
to ask
that you
for
do.
help.
Yeah, we have to ask for help. And it may be the hardest thing to do. It may be, listen, I still have those issues from time to time where I go, oh no, I can do this myself, And what the truth is? I prefer, I am learning to say, help me. I need help with this and I need help with that without feeling like I'm intruding.
Why is that you're better at that now?
I feel that in a time in my life, I always felt like I was taking up too much space. And if I was taking up too much space and asking for too much time, then that's not a good thing. I didn't see it as a good thing. And therefore, that was my perception, right? And that's how I took it in. I experienced it that way. And then I ran with it. You know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, you can do this and you can do that. And yes, by golly, I could do all those things. But you know what? It would have been easier if I would have asked for help,
Right.
Because I could have gotten to the solution sooner.
Yes.
But what happens
in
is that...
hindsight, you knew that. Yes.
Yeah. So it's important to say, I need help and I will seek help. And there is nothing bad about it. As a matter of fact, that's a prayer, right? Asking for help is like a prayer. But you're also answering that prayer because you are moving in the energy of what you are wanting. And
being your own savior.
And then you're moving in the direction of what you are wanting. So then you will be receiving exactly what it is that you're wanting. So that's really important. And just remembering there's a lot of unfinished business that we have. We stuffed it all away because, we didn't have time or we were too afraid or we didn't know what it was going to turn into. Or what it was going to turn us into.
Right.
Or how we were going to be judged based on, our experiences. Yeah.
Don't break from the tribe. It's always been done this way. What are you doing?
Yes.
You have three heads.
Right.
No.
Keep the secret.
Danger,
keep
Will
the
Robinson.
Secret. Exactly. Keep the secret because it's important that you keep the secret. And in reality, no, because it's self-destructive.
That's it. Because every time I say this, when people are afraid of you shining or they're jealous of you shining, it is not because it is because they are afraid that your shining is going to illuminate their shadow every time. And that cannot be a reason to prevent you from doing it because you're here to shine. You cannot worry about anybody else.
And you end up doing the opposite, though. You end up doing the opposite because the more you shine...
down.
Yes, but the more you shine your light and the brighter you are, the more you reveal their light. but they have to get past that, right? So their light really is revealed when your light shines brighter. And so we've been thinking all along, oh no, let's dim the light. No, we don't need to dim our light.
Because their ticker tape parade is saying, don't shine, don't stand out, don't break from the tribe. It's the same thing. It's like a book of matches. If you take the book of matches and you take one match and you light the match away from the book, the light's going to shine. But if you light it near the book, everybody's going to blow up and shine, right?
Yes.
So it's like you have to pick your journey. And look, it always comes down to the same thing for me. Worth, self-worth and value, and your ability to say, I take accountability. Yes. And it's not easy.
And that I'm important enough, and that I am important enough, and that I have to love myself. I have to love myself through all things, unconditionally. That's important, because when we don't do that, then we can fall into all kinds of different scenarios that don't fit us. So if you love yourself unconditionally and you accept yourself as you are, right, then you can start to see, right, and you can start to be that person, right, that really is sitting there waiting for you. Right.
Everybody has their life mission, their life path, whatever it is. I know for me, a big part of my path is learning to love myself through everything I possibly can, and being a way shower to show people how to do that. It's not about perfection. It's not about a destination, but it is about being vulnerable, being authentic, and showing people, look,
and it's
I'm
about
just
the
as
journey.
mucked up as everybody else. Exactly.
It's about the journey. It's
about loving yourself through that journey, not hammering yourself through that journey. Right?
Yeah, you love yourself through the journey and you learn. If you beat yourself up through the journey, right, then you're not learning anything, because the teaching is being hidden.
You're also abusing yourself.
Yeah. But the important piece is that the teaching that is in that experience is going to be hidden from you, because you're not taking the time to acknowledge it, right? To reveal it. We have to be able to do those things in order to find the gems that we hold, right? This is so important. A lot of times we don't do that. A lot of times we're so busy criticizing ourselves or judging ourselves or, beating ourselves up, whatever it is that you do. You know what I mean? Sometimes we have to say, hey, why am I doing that? Oh, because I always do that? Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, because you know what? It really doesn't feel good. So let me do something that feels good. Let me start treating myself, taking care of myself, loving myself, giving myself the things that I desire, people, places, and things, right? All those things are important. Honoring the self, right? More than, the other experiences, right? We need to, it's so important to do those things. Well,
I can't help it, Marilyn, because my funny little mind is thinking about, boy, you must not have very close neighbors if you're going out there screaming and the police don't show up at your house.
Well, I have quite a bit
in your backyard.
I do. I've even got. Listen, I think I told you the story. One time I went to the river. And I went to a point where I just stood there. There wasn't anybody around. And I just needed to do it. I needed to scream. And I was so terrified to do it. But I knew that I had to do it. And I did. And this man came with his little hound dog. And he said, Miss, are you okay? And I said, I am so much better now. Thank you so much, right? Because I think it's important to say it's okay. Like, listen, I'm not going to put out a PBA and say, everybody, I'm about to scream. Don't call the police.
The scream will happen at 1:15 p.m.
And I don't do that a lot, but I have done it twice in my life where I felt, if I don't do that, I just felt like I was going to cave in, and I did not want to do that. I wanted to crack open, right? Crack wide open.
Did.
And I did just that. And I think it's important for us to listen. Now, remember, I was fighting that, right? Because I was like, no, you don't want to do that. You know, what are people going to think? How are people going to see it? Da, 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 da. And then I said, you know what? I don't care in this moment. In this moment, what I care is to release what is sitting in me that needs to move. And the only way I know how is the way my body is saying to do it. And I will do just that. And I did it. And I felt so much better. I felt so much better.
Oh, my goodness. Listen, the truth of the matter is, did you ever see them? I do this to Marilyn all the time. Did you ever see the movie Network where they open the window? It's like from the 70s. And they go, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And all of a sudden, like everybody in the neighborhood is sticking their heads out their windows in New York going, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. You know,
and
they're all breaking free.
I love that energy. Just think about it. You know, you don't want to take it anymore. And you don't want to take it from yourself anymore because you could be your worst enemy, right? So you don't want to have that treatment coming from yourself. Let's start loving ourselves.
And the best thing about that is the more you do it, like you said before, hindsight's 2020. When you see you get relief, when you see you get a breakthrough, when you see you walk 2 steps forward instead of 1 and 1 back, right? That's where you start going, hey, this feels good. I can build my biceps. I can do it again.
And sometimes we can tell ourselves stories about, you know, we create this fear monster, you know, around a story. If I let this out, this is what's going to happen. And in reality, when we do release the story, oh my God, it's such a huge opening for us. You know, it's such a huge opening for us because we have now unpacked that stuff that has been clogging us and not allowing us to, you know, to shine more, you know, because we've been holding it down. So I believe that it's important, right? We do it with ease and grace, with love and compassion towards ourselves and others, but we do it because it will provide a huge healing, you know?
Yes.
And it's going to shift a lot.
Yeah, in my case, it was a 5-year-old with really fluffy, puffy turquoise wings and ready to sit in my lap and tell me all about, you know, the sky she drew, and it completely transformed. And that's what happens when you start doing that. You start getting those moments of gifts.
Yeah.
And wow, what is beneath that trauma? Beneath that trauma is the gift of you. Yeah. Things you never knew that you're re-remembering, that you're coming back to. It is so worth it. And I think that's where we kind of need to wrap up the show, because I know you have a prayer and we need to tell people how to find us. But it is the journey that is so worth it. And it will bring you essentially the things that you seek. But they come from within you, not from outside of you.
And learning,
that's the hardest.
Learning to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
That's so important to remember that if we believe in ourselves, really, if we believe in ourselves and we love ourselves unconditionally, not with conditions, because if we love ourselves with conditions, then we limit ourselves.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, we limit ourselves. It's like
when you're that little kid, when you were like a little kid and you had that terrible nightmare, and your mommy or your grandmother, and hopefully you guys out there had this experience where somebody who loved you came in and held you and said, it's okay. It was a dream. You'll get through this. Let's look under the bed. You know, let's look in the closet, you know. And it's like, yeah, if there's some in the closet, we're going to be okay. We're going to do this together.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to say this really quickly because I know we don't have too much time. But from taking back from that story, if you didn't have that, if you didn't have that parent or you didn't have that person in your life that said that, you could be that person. You can turn around and you can say, okay, I'll be that to that little girl who was terrified of the nighttime or so terrified of whatever the dreaming state. And then you can heal that. You can be all that. Come on, let's check under this and let's do that and let's do this. Just
and we're gonna
giving
be
it
okay.
back. Yeah, and we're going to be just fine. And we are going to be just fine because we are
going to be
fine.
better than fine.
Yes.
We're going to be thriving, flying, and free.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Beautiful.
darling. Let me say how people can find me is angelwithanedge.com or Elizabeth Lindsay with an A, LINDSAY.com, or on Facebook, the same name, and I have a blue streak, and I publish our show publicly every week. And I'm happy to friend you if you'd like to join me. Marilyn, how can people find you?
UniversalSacredMedicine.com. So it's UniversalSacredMedicine.com, and that's my website. So that's how you can find me.
So my beautiful sacred soul sister, I used to think that was such a bunch of bunk and like a Hallmark card till I met Marilyn, and she truly is my sacred soul sister, and I'm so grateful that we get to do this show and that we're friends and that we've come across our path now. Would you lead us out with the beautiful prayer for this week?
Yes, I will. Okay, so here we go. And I wrote this morning. May we surrender the energy that is at our internal front door waiting for safe passage. May this great release create an opening into our internal sacred connection and wisdom. May our words flow with ease and grace, filled with love and compassion for all, as we honor and accept our true path. May we acknowledge our power, our courageous self, as we trust our process. Today, we reclaim our right to take up space, to speak our truth, to love ourselves through all things, at all times, unconditionally. May we observe from our high heart in our daily interactions, trusting our process. So be it.
Peace and blessings.
Blessings, love, and light, guys. Bye.
See you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.